with Jim the Car Guy. Give me 1 second. I just got a couple of things going on. I'm going to get over and see what everybody's talking about. I saw a lot of people were in here before I even got here. And it looks like Chris was the first one in here tonight. All right, give me 1 second. Let me get this stuff out of here, and then we're pretty much ready to go. Okay. All right, I hope everybody's doing good. Let's see where everybody is from here today. We got my usual in here, my usual people. Well, somebody's from London, England, California. And of course, I know Lon's going to be in here someplace. He's in Ohio. There you go. Chris in California. Well, welcome everybody. I hope you had a good weekend. Here it's been kind of lousy. Well, in case anybody doesn't know, I live in South Jersey. My shop is in North Jersey. And today it's been raining like heck down in South Jersey. But believe it or not, up north it hasn't really been raining. It's been a little overcast, but it hasn't really been too bad. All right, so of course my dogs didn't really want to go for too much of a walk tonight because they don't like walking in the rain. So I had a shorter walk tonight with them, and they're laying down and resting right now. They taking it easy. A couple of things we're going to talk about today. First, I'm going to see what's going on over here in the chat a little bit, and then we're going to talk about something that happened last week. As you can tell by the note down at the bottom, is that this week we're going to talk about the problems associated with buying a car or a truck from a dealership. And I'm sure most of you guys have all bought a car or a truck or something from a dealer at some point. And anybody who has dealt with these people, they know that I'm going to try to put as delicately as possible without really insulting anybody, because I don't know who's watching my show. But buying a used car, it's like a circus. Even when you walk into a dealership and you tell them that which is exactly what happened to me. I'm going to back up. I'm going to start the story. Then I got a couple of different stories to tell you about. And every time you buy a car, it's always a learning experience, and you always learn something that you should have done that you didn't do, that you will do the next time. This time I learned that whenever I'm going to buy a car, you don't drive any other car except the car you're going to buy. What happened this time is that I went to a dealer, and I'm not going to mention what dealer or what kind of a car it is, but everybody knows how I feel about what cars I like. But we went to a dealership, and the first thing I do when I walk into a dealership, and this is, I might add, this is not a dealership that I haven't dealt with before. I've dealt with them before. I think this is my third vehicle that we purchased from them, and they're probably not as bad as some of the dealerships, which I will go back and I will talk about that with you with another deal. A couple of other things that happened along the way with different dealerships. I might add that Mrs. Jim the Car Guy, when I go for a car, doesn't even want to come with me. She'd pick out what kind of car it is, and she doesn't want to go into it because these places drive you nuts. But anyhow, this is what happened. I knew sort of what kind of vehicle we were looking for. Go into a dealership. First thing I tell the guy is I don't have a lot of time to kill here today. I'm here to buy a vehicle. I'm not here to shop around and waste anybody's time, but I want to get in and I want to get out. Get in and get out actually wound up being at the dealership for over 7 hours all totaled. And I might add leaving without a vehicle because they actually were playing a game. What happened is we went into a dealership, and now this car was not for myself, it was for somebody else. And we go into a dealership, and we took the car for a ride, or I should say the SUV for a ride. Took it for a ride, drove the vehicle around. It ran really good. And of course, the salesman gives you his whole sales pitch, and how great the dealership are, and how they don't waste your time and all this kind of stuff. But the reality of it is that they're no different than the other dealership. So we take it for a ride. We drive the car. We go back inside. Now, they liked the car, so we decided we're going to make a deal on this car. Go back inside, talk to them about, and I'm curious what happened to you people over here too. So, put something in here. And before I go into my next story about a vehicle, I'm going to read some of this stuff and we'll go through it. I see my buddy Hostar is in here too. Glenn, good to see you. So we go into a dealership. We know what we wanted. So we wanted everything the vehicle had, but we wanted a sunroof. The only way to get the sunroof is that you have to go up into a different class, which, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It was actually, what they wanted. So that's what we decided to do. So we go and we make the deal, and back and forth, back and forth. You know how the negotiation goes. It gets to be sometimes a little bit heated. And but anyhow, we work out all the details, and it came to the point where we were ready to leave if he didn't come down to the price that we wanted. So they came down to the price we wanted. We're sitting there, and they're going to take the vehicle. They're going to clean the vehicle up. They're going to do last-minute stuff on it to get the vehicle all done. Now, this is like 5 o'clock after being there from 12 o'clock. They take the vehicle, and they're washing it, and they're supposedly going through last-minute checks and something which is unknown to me. Maybe you know about it. Unless the deal was just BSing a little bit. They said that they need to actually put all the fuses in the vehicle because the vehicle is shipped minus the fuses. I don't know. I never heard that before, but that's what the salesman told me, that the reason for the delay was that they couldn't get a technician to do it right then and there on the spot. So it was going to be a little bit of a delay, and they would take care of it to go and get something to eat and come back. So we leave, go and get something to eat. Now he says it'll be done in a half an hour. So about an hour and a half later, we go back. I walk in the dealership, which there's nobody in the dealership except the people that work there. Go into the dealership, and it says, he pick the car up and everything. And he says, okay, no problem. He says, that's the vehicle outside over there. We go outside, and we go and we sign. Let me just back up a little bit. We made the deal. We wrote the check, paid them a check for the vehicle, went to the business manager, talked to them, the whole spiel where they try to upsell you on everything else, which we never do. And anyhow, we gave him a check. So now that vehicle belongs to us. So we come back to pick the vehicle. Now, after about an hour and a half, we come back. Now, we own the vehicle already. They detailed it, they cleaned it, it's all ready to go. So we walk outside. We go in to look at the vehicle before we take possession of it, walk outside, get in the vehicle, and look up. There's no sunroof. Says to the salesman, I said, where's the sunroof? This vehicle is supposed to have a sunroof. He says to me, no, it's not supposed to have a sunroof. It's supposed to have rails on the side, an upgraded radio, and some other fog lights or something like that. I said to him, the whole idea of upgrading to the next package was because you told me the only way I could get the sunroof is that I had to go up to the next package. So got a little bit heated at that point, and I kind of lost my temper with the guy. And go back in, and we talked to the person who runs the dealership. As it turns out, the guy who was the salesperson was a fairly new salesperson, didn't even know the product he was actually selling, and he wound up giving us misinformation. It wasn't the correct information, as I could tell, because I had no sunroof. So that the business manager says, well, he says, what can we do to sell this vehicle, now and take it the way it is? He says to me, you have the rails on there. And I said to him, what the F do I need rails on there for? You have the rails on the top of it. You don't have any crossbars on there. I said, that's useless to me. I had no need for that. And the radio was upgraded and fog lights, but there really wasn't a lot. It wasn't something that was $2,000 in additional items that were needed. So I said, listen, I'll take the vehicle, take $1,500 off the price of it, and I'll take the vehicle. But of course, they couldn't do that. So we went and one thing led to another. We wound up going back to the vehicle that we initially wanted, and we wound up getting it without the sunroof. So what I learned, and I'm sure everybody else is going to realize, is now when you go to a dealership, unless I'm going to drive the vehicle that I'm going to buy, I'm not even gonna negotiate with the person, because I want to see the vehicle. I want to make sure there's no, let me just back up a little bit. We go to pick the vehicle up, and down the whole side of the quarter panel, there's a big scratch. Well, it looked like a scratch to me, but after I put these on, I realized it wasn't a scratch, a big line down the side of it. I said to the guy, I said, what the heck is going on? I said, you know what, just cancel this deal. Give me my money back. Give me the check back, and I'm out of here. I'm going to the next dealer down the road to buy a different vehicle. But it was just when they detailed it, they didn't do a good job. They actually left a whole line of that, that greasy, oily stuff they put on the vehicle when it's shipped. They left a whole line of that on there, and they were able to clean that up. But that's what I learned. You're going to buy a vehicle. You don't buy a vehicle unless you can actually sit in the vehicle, drive the vehicle, and make sure that that's the vehicle you want. Because a salesman, they're going to tell you anything that they want to tell you just to make a sale. I see I got a lot of stuff going on over here. Let's just see what's happening here. And then Lon, I didn't forget about you. I'm going to talk about something that Lon sent me the other day. All right, let's see what we got going on here. 6,000. How many guys find this journal? Let's see. Anybody talking about cars? Jim has a nice bold shirt tonight. That's right, a new shirt tonight, right? Colorado. We have Colorado here too. We have people from all over the place. No rain, Jim. Oh, no rain up in North Jersey. Actually, I was up. I was actually up in Jersey City earlier today, so I know it wasn't raining. I actually drove up from South Jersey. I drove up. I got up probably by where the parkway goes onto the turnpike, exit 11. And when I got there, it was actually a little bit overcast, but it wasn't raining. Down here, it was raining the whole time. And even coming back, I got down by where the turnpike runs into the parkway, and it started raining again. So it's been raining down here the whole time. AC, Michael? You know what, Michael? I think I was going to talk to you today, wasn't I? Yes, I do. Actually, Michael, being that I saw you in there first, I'm going to do your question first. It was about a 2008 Honda CRV. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look down here, and then you will be the first that I talk to. Karina, hi, how are you? Let's see. Like I said, I see my buddy Glenn is in here. Lon, I didn't forget about you. We're going to take care of that too. Any tips on replacement AC compressor? Okay, we're going to go back to that question. I'm going to read the question, Mike, that you sent to me to my subscribers, and we'll talk about that together. Bill, good to see you in here as well. Oh, Wyatt, I see you're here too. Can't stay long. Good to see you though, Wyatt. I'm glad you're doing okay. All right, let's see. Okay. Okay, we're going to do some, this one question. This is the question that Michael has for me. He says, hi, I have a 2008 Honda CRV with just 95,000 miles on it. That's actually pretty low for a 95, truthfully. Check the relay and the clutch. Check the relay and the clutch is seized up. I'm pretty mechanically inclined with 20 years of experience. Just wanted to see if this is a job that I could do with the help of my son to do it myself. AutoZone sells some, and with it, you can get the vacuum loaner tool for free. Just trying to save money. I normally don't like other people to work on my cars. I know what you mean by that because, you know what? We're going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me and people working on my car because I was home and something happened. I'm going to tell you about this, but we will talk Mike first. So they're going to lend you the vacuum tool to vacuum pump the system down. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this, Michael. To do that compressor is really not that hard. I guess you saw that one on here that I actually put up. It was actually, you know what? It was a 2008 CRV. And to put that compressor in is a fairly easy job. It's a little bit tight getting the compressor down, but once you take the drive belt off and you pull the belt out, you will need to remove the Freon from the system. some shops will charge you to take the Freon out unless the system is empty, but you're going to need to get that Freon out of there. I don't recommend you setting it up in the air. You want to probably get someone to pull that Freon out for you. With some of my customers, when they came to me and they were doing their own job, I would help them out and I would do the evacuation of the Freon out of the system for free for them because they were just, regular customers. And then I just got the Freon from them. So talk to a local guy to see if you can get it pumped out first because you'll need that Freon out of there. But getting back to the compressor, putting that compressor on is fairly easy. It's a little bit tight when you're trying to get that compressor down and through where the radiator support is and where the engine itself is. It's a little bit tight in there, but it does come out as very, it's a little bit tight to get in there, but it's really not as bad as you would think. If you've been working on cars for 20 years, I don't think you're going to have any problem getting that compressor out. I will tell you this, when you put the new compressor in, most of the time the compressors come with new O-rings, but when you put the new compressor in, don't use the old O-rings. Make sure that you use the new O-rings on there, because if you put an old O-ring on there, you may wind up with a small leak in there, and then you may wind up trying to pull a vacuum and not be able to pull a vacuum because those O-rings are no good. So make sure you change the O-rings for sure, and also make sure that you fill the compressor with oil. Make sure, most of the time the compressors, when you get them, the compressors are dry. There's usually no oil in them, so you want to make sure you put oil in the compressor, and then because with the vacuum tool that you're going to be getting from the AutoZone or whatever the parts place is going to be, you're not going to be able to install the oil into the system. So you're going to need to put in there probably at least 3 ounces. What you do is you take your old compressor off the vehicle and you drain it into a container so you see how much oil comes out of the compressor. Most of the time, from experience, usually it's 2 or 3 ounces of oil. So you will need to put that 2 or 3 ounces of oil into the compressor before you put it back up into the vehicle. So O-rings, make sure you use the correct oil inside the system, and you shouldn't have a problem. All right, good luck. Let me know how you make out and how it turns out. And if you need any advice, of course, take a look at my video, because I didn't take any steps out of that. I put everything in there exactly as it was done. So everything is in there the way it's supposed to be. All right, so keep me posted. Let me know how it works out for you, and if you need any advice, just send me an email or reach me here on the chat and we can talk about it. All right, now I'm going to tell you this. Now, what Michael said is he doesn't like anybody else working on his vehicles, and I can't blame him, because my shop from where I live is about 70, 75 miles from here, and I got a nail in my tire. No big deal. It's just a nail, right? You think you can take it to a so-called tire shop to have it done. So the first thing I did is I went into this, and I don't even know if I told you this. I may have told you already, but I go into this tire shop and I said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. I have a shop up north. I've been in business for 42, years plus." I said, "Do you patch tires or you plug them?" And he said, "Oh, no." He said, we patch tires." I said, "All right." I said, "Then put a patch on that tire for me, and give me a call when it's done, and I'll come back and pick it up." So I dropped the tire with the guy, and I leave. And I talked to the guy for probably about 10 minutes or so, talking shop talk type stuff. And I leave. I come back home. I get a phone call probably an hour later from this guy, and he says to me, "Yeah," he says, "just want to let you know your tire's all done. We plugged it." I said, "Wait, what do you mean you plugged the tire? I told you I wanted that tire patched." He said, "No," he says, "the hole was too close to the sidewall, and we had to put a plug in it. We weren't able to patch it." I says to him, "Who do you think you're BSing?" I said, "You can't, if the hole is a non-repairable hole, why would you even, plug it? Because it's still a non-repairable hole." And it wasn't. I know where it was. I know it was in the center of the threads where it can be repaired. So I said to the guy, he says to me, "Hey, hang on a second. Let me talk to my mechanic." He comes back. He says to me, "Oh," he says, "I was mistaken." He says, "My mechanic said that he did put a patch on the inside of the tire." So I said, "Oh," I said, "All right, no problem." So I'll come over and pick it up. I go over there and I says to the guy, I said, "Listen," I I didn't mean to lose my temper with you. I said, but I told you I wanted this thing plugged. I didn't want the thing plugged. I wanted it patched for a reason. And I said, we talked about that. And I told you, we talked about when you ream out the hole, you push the wire through inside and it's not good and all that. I said, I told you that. And he said to me, yeah, he said, it was my mistake. He says, my mechanic put a patch on it. So I said, all right, I said, how much is it? Tells me the price. I give him my credit card, runs my credit card. I said, where's the tire? I'll throw it on my car later on when I get back home. He says to me, it's right over here. I go over to get the tire. I look at it. There's a plug sticking up out of the tire. I went over. I said, he was in the shop with somebody else, a customer. I says to him, when you have a second, would you come out here? I want to talk to you. Comes outside. I says to him, you put a plug in that tire. He said, no. He said, that's not a plug. He said, that's a plug with a patch on the inside of it. I says to him, listen, I said, I told you I've been in the business for 42 years. That's not a plug with a patch on the other end of it. It's a plug. I said, you know it, and I know it. He said, no. He said, the guy, they push it from the inside, they take a tool, and they pull it through. I said, yeah, well, when you have a plug with a patch on the other end of it, it's a single strand. When you put a plug in a tire, it's actually two pieces of rubber that come sticking out. I said, that's two pieces of rubber. That's not a plug. That's a patch. He says to me, no. He says, my guy assures me that that's what he did. I took $100 out of my pocket, and I says to him, I will bet you this $100. If you break that tire down, there's not a plug, not a patch on the inside of that tire. I said, I guarantee that has got a plug in the inside of it. And he starts double talking. I said, no. I said, I'm going to bet you this $100. Break that tire down. If I'm wrong, you take the $100. I apologize, and I walk away. He says to me, goes over, he talks to the guy. He comes back. He says, the guy who fixed the tire is not here now. He said, but we have it on video, on the video right here, that tire was plugged. I said to him, like I said, this $100 is yours. If you break that tire down and prove to me I'm wrong, I said, I'll give you this $100. I apologize, and I leave. Wouldn't do it. So he goes and he takes the tire onto the side, all the way on the other side of the shop. But I don't care. It's my tire. I'm going in there to see what he's doing. And he breaks it down on the machine. He breaks it down. I pull the tire open. I looked at it. I said, there you go. I said, you put a plug in it. I told you I wanted a patch, and you went ahead and plugged it. So the reason I even tell that story is I understand what Michael's saying about taking the vehicle into a mechanic, because most of the time, even mechanics like this guy knew that I knew what I was talking about. After being in the business for 40 plus years, I know what I'm talking about. He still tried to screw me with the plug. So I understand, Michael, when you say that you don't like anybody working on your vehicle. I know exactly what you mean. All right, what do we got going on here? All right, we got a lot of stuff going on here. Looks like a lot of people are talking amongst themselves. Oh, we got somebody in Mexico. All right. Okay. Oh. Did anybody see what Mrs. Jimthecarguy wrote here? Hopefully not. Okay. What else do I want to tell you? Something else I want to talk to you about. Okay. That was the one that we talked about. Okay, that was the one with the sunroof. Now, somebody says something. I hear Mr. Jimthecarguy laughing back there. Why, says 50 guys watching, Jim. All right, okay. John A. Look, 50 is pretty good. I'm actually very happy with that. 50 is very good. I wish it was 500, but 50 is very good as well. All right. Okay. This is another story I'm going to tell you. This is another vehicle that I went to go buy. And at the time, I drove down to South Jersey to get this vehicle because it was a vehicle that they only had down here. And we go to a dealership, and that is a totally different dealership. But whether it's a Honda or a Toyota or a Nissan, Chevy, Ford, Chrysler, they all play that same ridiculous game with you. And I'm going to tell you a story of something that I did when I was looking for a Ford one time. Ford, a Toyota, they're all the same. Okay, but this vehicle here, we go into a dealership. Now, I did my research online, and before you go to buy any vehicle, you need to do your homework. You need to go online and you need to find out what's going on. What's the price of the vehicle? What's a fair price for you to pay? Nobody wants to pay too much for a vehicle. You want to try to get it someplace where they're making money and you're getting a real good price on it, but you're not getting clobbered over the head. So go into this place. I had looked online and I saw this vehicle. I had the VIN number and everything. So I always do. I always back up whatever I have to say. So I printed it out off my computer. I had the vehicle, the picture of the vehicle, including the VIN number. I go down to the dealership. We go in there. We look at it, like the vehicle, and it really was. It was a very, very nice looking vehicle. So we go into the dealership. I said to them, interested in buying this car here. What can we do on the price? And now I already know the price because I looked online and I had the VIN number of it and everything else. But on the vehicle itself, you looked on the tag on the window and it had all of these other prices on there. It was like probably 8 or 10 different prices on there, which is, they always add on everything like that. But anyhow, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I just saw something over there where it says Scotty Kilmer popped up on there. I just saw his name. Somebody wrote it down up there. Don't know why. I'm going to have to go back and look at that and see. So the vehicle was a really good looking vehicle, and that's the vehicle we wanted to get. So, but it had all this stuff written on the window sticker itself. But I said to the guy, I said, what kind of price can you do, on this car for me? And he comes up and he gives me this price, but the price is crazy high. It's like what I saw it online for was like not even just $1,000. It was like $4,000 or $5,000 more on the vehicle itself. I said to the guy, I said, listen, I said, I saw this online. I said, this vehicle, it was a lot cheaper online. He says to me, oh no, it couldn't be. It's impossible. So I took the paper out and I says to him, is that VIN number? And I read him the VIN number, and he says to me, "Oh yeah." He says, that is the same vehicle. He takes the paper that he had given me the price on, and he did like this, and he crossed off like 8 or 10 different things on there right away, just like that. Took all the prices out, and he brought it down to a reasonable number that I thought that had been advertised online. Sorry, my cat just came out here to say hello. My dogs aren't here, but my cat came out to say hello. So we get the price on the vehicle, and I says to him, well, what's the best price you can do on it? I said, I want to buy it right now. So we negotiated back and forth, and he wouldn't come down to the number that I wanted. So he says, now we had talked about financing the vehicle as well. So he says to me, I guarantee you're going to get 1.9 or better. He said, realistically, it's going to be 0.9, but he said, just to play it safe, he said, I'm going to say 1.9 or better. I said, that's fair, 1.9 or better. I said, we can get it for 9, it's even better. So we work out the whole thing. We go back and forth with the numbers and everything. And he says to me, let me go talk to my boss. You've heard that story before. He goes in the back, he talks to his boss. He comes back out and he says to me, they took your number and everything is good. And your percentage rate, instead of being, now he didn't tell me this, I saw it on it, the percent that there was like 8 or almost 8% interest on the loan. I said to him, 8%. I said, you told me 1.9. You said it's probably going to be 9, but you put 1.9 up as just a starting point. So I says to him, I said, you really made me angry because I just wasted my time sitting here with you. You gave me all of these numbers, and now you're not living up to what you said you're going to. And the person I was with, the guy is talking to me, and he's talking to them also. And he says he's trying to talk to me and talk to them too. And the person I'm with, she looks him right in the face and she says to him, you lied to me. You told me it was going to be 1.9 or less. You come back with 8. That's nowhere near 1.9. You lied to me. I don't believe nothing you're going to tell me. So then they have to go back and forth and back and forth. We did get it for the 1.9 that he had promised he was going to give it to us. But if you don't realize what you're doing, they try to slide these numbers past you when you sit down to sign the paperwork. So you have to watch everything. So now, just as a real kick in the pants, I decided that I was not going to stick to the price that I had agreed to him with. He was trying to play a game with me. And I said, you know what, now I'm going to be the real pain in the rear end, and I'm going to now adjust my price down. So I actually wound up getting a couple of $100 more off the cost of it because he was trying to screw around with the percentage. So this is what I learned. Believe nothing your salesman tells you. He's telling you anything he wants to tell you just to make you sign on a dotted line. Before you sign that paper that you own that vehicle, make sure that you look at everything on that paper. Do your research, go online, see there's lots of different sites out there. Not that I'm going to push one site or another, but there's lots of different car sites that you can see what people pay for a car, from what the lowest point that somebody paid to the highest point that somebody paid, and what they feel is a reasonable price in between. One website, you really can't go by what one website says, but if you do your research on the different websites, you'll have an idea of what the vehicles are going for. So just do your homework. Don't let the dealership talk you in circles. When you go in to see that finance guy, be careful, because his job is to try to sell you something before the salesman does his job trying to sell you something when you're out there with him. But then when you come in to see the business guy to sign the papers and everything, he's going to try to sell you the tire, the rim warranties, the extended warranties, and all that kind of stuff. Just know in your mind if you're gonna purchase that. Me, I never get the add-ons. That's just me personally. You can do what you want to do, but I never do it, and I don't recommend it to anybody that I know, like my children or anybody like that. Don't get the extra tire warranties and all that kind of stuff too. It's just like throwing your money away. Even if you damaged a rim and you had to change a rim one time, it'd still be cheaper just to pay for the rim out of pocket versus the paying for the extended warranty. I just see something in here. I think I saw somebody in here. Yep, V. Davis. I just saw it come up over here. I know I had something right here that I wanted to talk to you about. I think this is V. Davis. Thank you for the educational moments, Jim. But now we're going to go back to your question. That was my first. That was my first one. Okay. This is V. Davis. He writes. He says, "Hello, Jim. I have a 2010 Honda Accord 4-cylinder. It has a slight tremor when I'm accelerating to a high speed. I put gum out in the gas tank last week, and it didn't seem to be as bad, but I still experience it. So what I would say is, first thing we have to know." Okay, I have a question for you, V. Davis. How many miles is on the vehicle? And is there a check engine light on? The cap, something different. How many miles on the vehicle? And is the check engine or service engine light on at all? My buddy Glenn says, buying a Chrysler product, get the extended powertrain warranty if you're going to keep it for more than 7 years. Yeah, those warranties, Glenn, those warranties are a pain in the rear end. I'm going to tell you a story now that being that you brought up about a Chrysler product. I'm going to bring up a story about a Durango I used to have. And we're going to talk about that too. All right, Glenn? I'm just writing it down so I don't forget to talk about this one. Okay. 86,000 miles. That's really not many miles, 86,000 miles. Did you say it was a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder? A 4-cylinder. Okay. Is the check engine light or service engine light on? If you need an O2 sensor, that actually could be your shake in the engine, because the O2 sensor could be giving you a false reading, and that could give you a shake in the engine. So the check engine light is on. I know what you want. Let me just go back over here. I see something going on. Okay, V Davis. Yes, so the check engine light is on. If the only code in there is the oxygen sensor code, what I would do is before you go crazy, because really with 80 some odd thousand miles, 86,000 miles on it, on a 4-cylinder Honda, that's extremely low mileage. I will tell you this: I got a Honda myself, and I got 210,000 miles on it, and it runs beautiful, no shake, no nothing. So 86,000 is extremely low. What I would do first before you do anything is get that oxygen sensor corrected first. Change the oxygen sensor, put in a new O2 sensor, and get that shake. Now that is the only code in there, right? It's the O2 sensor code. Because if the only code in there is the oxygen sensor code, then just change the oxygen sensor. That could account for your shake in the engine. Because if it's dumping fuel or running a little bit richer, you're going to wind up with the plugs getting fouled a little bit, and that can cause a little bit of a miss in the engine, a little bit shake in it as well. So if there's no other codes in there except the oxygen sensor, then change your oxygen sensor, and it should take care of your problem. Keep me posted, V Davis, and let me know how everything works out for you. We're going to go back a little bit further back here. We're going to see bad coil. It could be a bad coil, but 86,000 miles. I think they're talking about something else, actually. Yes. Okay. All right. The bad coil was actually not meant for a V Davis. That's something else going on in there. Okay. Now, I just wanted, before I do any more, any questions from my subscribers, I do want to show you one thing. A friend of mine, you see him in here all the time. His name is Lon Willis. He actually sent me this because he knows I'm a Honda guy. And I think he probably saw me spill oil at one time. And I think he probably decided to send me this unit here. This is it's the OEM tool for doing it's a funnel. Instead of putting a funnel in the engine, this is the funnel, and it's good for Acuras, Nissans, and Hondas. Now let's open it up. I'm going to show you what it looks like. And my next oil change line, I will be using this. Well, my next Honda oil change, I will be using it. But this is it. Let me just show you guys real quick. Take out my friend of mine told me this one time. He says, "Don't cut towards your body." He says, "Cut towards your buddy, not to your body. Cut to your buddy." Okay. And that's it. This way, you can go into the top of the engine. You can pour it in without having to spill it. And the good thing is, you can see and hear what's going in. All right, and it says for Honda. So Lon, thank you very much. The next Honda oil change that I do, I will be using this. So that way I won't make any messes anymore. But that's it. Lon, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. It came during the week, Lon. I know I said that I was going to text you when it came in, but you know I've been going through a lot. It's been a little bit hectic. Even today, I was up north, came down here. I didn't get back down South Jersey until probably 5:30. Okay. All right, let's go back and let's see what other questions we have here. We have a couple of other of my subscribers who had questions for me. Okay. Oh, this is my buddy Michael Prokop. You know what? I don't know if Michael was in there or not. Let me just see if Michael was in there. Give me 1 second. Michael, are you in there? Michael's a good friend of mine. I've known for a long time. Actually, I know his whole family for a long time. But I don't see him in here, so maybe Michael is not here. He could be working tonight. Not really sure, but we're going to talk about this anyway, because he says to me, he says, Michael Prokop says to me, "Hey, Jim, my computer told me that I had a bad right rear speed sensor. So I changed the speed sensor and I still have the same issue, except this time the computer tells me that the speed sensor signal is missing. Any ideas? The symptoms of my vehicle is that when I put it in drive and step on the gas pedal, it applies the brake. Applies the brake. The harder I push on the gas, the more the brake holds." Michael, I've I don't think one has got anything to do with the other, to be truthful with you. The ABS is one thing, and the brake staying applied is something different. I'm not sure what kind of a vehicle it is. So, Mike, if you can let me know what kind of vehicle it was, we can try to go from there. I will tell you this: the computer said that it had a bad rear speed sensor. You changed it, and you still have the same issue, except this time the computer is telling you the speed sensor signal is missing. I would say you want to make absolutely sure that you got the right wheel speed sensor, because if the signal is missing, I have a suspicion that maybe somebody gave you a bad sensor, or the plug is not plugging together properly or something like that. So make sure you have the correct part. I know the parts stores around town, and most of them are really not that good. Unless you got it from the place that I deal with, then you know that they're pretty good. Um, but you want to make sure it's the right one. So, Mike, I think you probably have the wrong sensor. But send me Mike, I think you have my cell phone number or whatever. Text me or give me a call and let me know what's going on with that gas pedal. If the brake is applied when you step on the accelerator, the pedal is actually holds even more. That sounds like it's something else going on, where something is actually going on with that, possibly in the back of the vehicle or whatever. But I would check that sensor first, because I got a feeling that you're going to find out that that sensor is the wrong sensor or a defective sensor. So you definitely want to check that first, because you had one code that was in there, and now after putting a sensor in, you have a different code that tells me that something is going on with that sensor that is probably no good. So, all right, and give me a call. Let me know, or if you can't call, just send me a message as you did, and let me know what kind of vehicle it is, and and what the actual code was that you had in there. Okay. I still don't see him in here. Okay, I don't see him. I don't see Michael in here. All right, now I'm going to tell you this story. I had a Durango. I bought it brand new, and then now Glenn brought this up about the, if you have a Chrysler, get the extended warranty on there, because it's trouble. You know what? I just saw something else too. SA22. Hang on 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're going to get to that in just a minute. I see SA22 is in here. Give me 1 second. I want to come back to that. I will come right back to you. I just want to tell the story about a Durango. All right. Glenn had said on here that if you have a Durango, you should buy the extended warranty for the powertrain. And that's personal preference, whatever you decide. But I had a Durango one time, and this Durango is my own Durango, and it comes in, and it was probably over the 7-year, 70,000-mile warranty. And there was a problem with the AC compressor. The AC system wasn't working. After checking it a little bit further, I find out the evaporator inside the dashboard is actually no good. So I take now on the Durango, to put an evaporator in, it's not a simple 2-hour, 3-hour job. The entire dashboard has got to come out of the vehicle. So it's my own vehicle. So I decided I want to do this job. I want to do it one time. I don't want to have any problems with it. So I said, I'm just going to get the evaporator from the dealership. So now everybody knows that you buy an aftermarket evaporator, it's going to cost you probably less than $100. You buy it from the dealer, you're going to probably pay about $450. It was expensive. But it's my own truck. I want to do it once. I'm not going to do it again. I don't have the time to do it. So I order an evaporator from a friend of mine at the dealership. He sends it down to me. Now, my mistake was I had the box in the box. And I said, no big deal. It's in the box. It's coming from a reputable place and everything. So I pull the dashboard out of my vehicle, take it out. I pull the heater box out, which anybody who knows about cars, pulling a dashboard and pulling a heater box on a Durango is a real pain in the you know where. So I get the whole thing apart. I split the box open to get to the evaporator. I pull the evaporator out, and you look at it, and sure enough, that evaporator is leaking. The whole corner is all, messed up with the Freon, or the oil from the Freon, I should say. So it's a clear cut problem that the evaporator is no good. So I got the whole thing apart. I go over, I open up the box from the dealership. I take the evaporator out. I pull the evaporator out of the box, and it looks like it's used. It was all oxidized. It looked horrible. I called the dealer up and said, "Hey," I said, "this evaporator, this is a used evaporator. This is not a new evaporator." I said, "Somebody stuck this thing in a box and sent it back probably to you, and it's no good." So he couldn't get me another one. So I found a different dealership who had it, probably 15 miles away. I send a buddy of mine out there to pick it up for me. He runs out and gets it. Come back. I open up that box, and that box, I pull that evaporator out of there. That evaporator looks exactly like the one that was there. It was all oxidized, like it was all like as if it was 20 years old. It looked horrible. I called a friend of mine up at the dealer. I said, "What's up with this?" He says, "Yeah," he says, "everybody's having that problem, is that the material they made it out of, it oxidizes on the outside, but it's perfectly fine. You're not going to have any problem with it. I do them all the time, and they never come back." So I said, "I'm going to take your word for it, and we'll see what happens." I needed the vehicle. I needed to get home with the vehicle. So I put the whole thing back together. I charged it up, and he's right. It was absolutely perfect. No leak. Not even 6 months later, the thing is leaking all over again. So the part that I bought from the dealer that looked like it was all oxidized and ready to fall apart, it really was. It was a piece of junk, and I wound up having to do it again. So even when you get stuff from the dealer, you're not getting good quality stuff anymore. You're buying it, and you're paying top dollar, and you're getting stuff that's supposed to be from Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth, whatever, and it's actually just as poor quality as some of the aftermarket stuff. Okay, V. Davis says, let me just go back here, says, "Hi, Jim. How do you know that you need an evaporator?" Well, with this particular case, it was actually unmistakable, because when you turned on the air conditioning, you could smell like a foul smell coming out of the vents. And we have something at the shop that we use. It's a sniffer that actually detects the Freon. And what you do is you shut the vehicle off. You stick this piece down inside the vent, and you leave the car off. You leave the car sit for a little bit, and you start it up, and you turn the air conditioner on full blast, and the sniffer will tell you if there's a leak in the evaporator or not, because it starts like a very loud clicking, buzzing type noise. So you know that the evaporator is no good. But the machine is actually what tells us that. Fernando, need help with a 2007 Accord? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just go back up here to SA22. Let me just go back here and see what the first question was. Slatted rotors, drilled and slotted rotors aren't really worth it. I run Akebono ceramic brake pads, and they are great. If you want performance, go with Hawk or EKB. Okay, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but to be truthful with you, the drilled and slotted rotors, to me, they're garbage. It's throwing your money away. You get drilled and slotted rotors, you're throwing your money down the toilet. Unless you're driving race cars, you don't need these crazy brakes and rotors that they have out there where you're paying top dollar. You get yourself a good Monroe makes a very, very good product. Brakes, you get a Monroe brake pad. You get the Wagner brake pads. And it's all top quality stuff, and you're not going to pay a fortune for it. But now let me get back to your question. SA22 asks me. He says, he, she, I'm not sure, SA22. Hi, Jim. I hear a slight cracking noise coming from the front passenger side when I drive my car. I noticed it a day after hitting a small pothole in the road. Any thoughts on what it could be? I'm thinking it's something to do with the suspension or a tie rod, but not really sure. What kind of a car is it that you're driving, actually? I don't think you had it written down here what kind of car it was. No. What kind of car is it that you're actually driving? Do people, yeah, agree. They are also more likely to crack. See, the problem is a Genesis Coupe. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to go back to something else. The problem when you have these rotors that are actually drilled and slotted, when you have a rotor and you have the material to say this wide, and you start putting all these holes in there, it's supposed to dissipate the heat a little bit better. What I find is it doesn't dissipate the heat any better. It tends to warp those rotors a little bit more because there's less material in there and less material for the heat to dissipate through. When you put holes through the rotor and you have all of those holes in there, if you have the rotor is this big and you've got 50 holes in that rotor. So now you have 50 holes in that rotor and you took out whatever the size hole is times 50 in material away from that rotor. My thing is don't waste your money and um, don't throw those slotted rotors and drilled and all that. It's just a waste of money. 2012 Genesis Coupe. What I would do is there a lot of miles on the car? I don't think you said how many miles was on it. But if the noise started after you hit a pothole, depending on how big the pothole is, if you hit a pothole and it bends something underneath there, I've seen them already where the pothole is big enough that it actually bends the rotor itself. So as the wheel turns, the rotor is bent and the rim is bent, and as the rim is bent, it touches into the back of the caliper itself, and it'll give you like that little bit of a noise on the back of the uh, of the rotor of the rim itself. 55,000 miles. That's really not a lot of miles. I don't think it's going to be anything with any ball joints or any tie rod ends or anything like that. What I would do is I would take a look underneath there, visibly take a look at it and see if you see anything bent underneath there. Like I said, if the rim is bent a little bit, even though you look at it and there may be a little bit of a bend in there, when a rim collapses down, instead of being perfectly round, that rim is going to be bent in like a little bit of a notch in the rim. And if it's bent in with that little bit of a notch, when the rotor is rotating, when the tire is rotating, it's very possible that as it rotates, it's actually hitting into the back of the caliper itself. It'll give you like that type noise as it rotates around. As the speed increases, the noise will also increase. So take a look underneath there, visibly look at it first and see if anything is bent. Take the wheel off, look at the back of the wheel to make sure, because sometimes you look at the front of a wheel and there's no bends in it. But when you take that wheel off and you look in the back of it, there could be a significant bend in there. So if it started right after you hit the pothole, take the wheel off, take a look at it and make sure that there's no bends in the back of the rim. If you see a slight little bend in the rim itself, take that rim, put it in the back, take the back tire and put it up in the front and see if your noise travels from the front to the back. Because if it's bent, then the noise is going to be in the back where you put that wheel and not up in the front any longer. All right, but I don't think it's going to be anything real serious in there unless some significant damage took place. All right, so that we talked about as well. What else do I want to give you talk about? Talked about the finance guy, the 1.9, gave you 8%. Okay, we talked about that as well. Okay. All right, what do we got going on over here? We got a lot of people talking over here. My buddy Hayward is in here. I see Hayward's in the house. Good to see you. Hope everything is well with you. AC throwing hot air, 2007 Honda Accord. Fernando, did you talk to, let me just see if you were talking to anybody in here. AC hot air AC hot air coming out. Just put more air a couple of days ago. Now it's coming out kind of warm. Well, if you put the Freon in and it's starting to come out warm again, there's going to be a leak someplace in it. I think it was a 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you said? 2007 Accord. What I would do if I were you is take a look. The most common area to be damaged on that car is the condenser itself. If you look up in the front of the condenser, you may have a little bit of a puncture someplace in there. And if you have a rock that hits the condenser, it'll actually dent it. But if you look underneath there on a dry day when it's not raining, you may see a little bit like an oily area on the condenser. And the oil is actually the compressor oil that comes out. The Freon comes out and it dissipates and it's gone. But the oil, when the Freon comes out, remains. So look for any area on the condenser, any area on the hoses that could be a little bit of like oily residue, and that could be where your leak is coming from. So take a look at the condenser first. That's the most common thing, and then you want to look at all the lines. They do sell a Freon that you can actually charge your air conditioner up with. It's like a dye tracer inside the Freon that you're going to put in it. If you can't see the leak and you're not positive where it's coming from, get this dye tracer, charge it up with the dye tracer, and once you charge it with the dye tracer, you drive the vehicle around normally, and then you'll have to use an ultraviolet light to get in there and look around wherever the AC hoses are, just to see where the Freon is leaking out of. Let's see. It's hard to keep track. Just take a look what else we got going on in here. We got a lot of my buddies in here. All right, let's see. Okay, got a lot of talking going on in there, but we're probably gonna get back to some of these questions because I'm running out of time here. How to reset the tire pressure monitoring light on a 2008 Honda CR-V. I hope you see this. This comes from one of my subscribers, EONAH. I hope you see this. I got my sensor changed with an aftermarket part. The mechanic had no knowledge of reprogramming my sensor and discarded my old sensor. So now I have no way of getting the old sensor ID number. Okay. All right. That is going to be a little bit of a problem, but it's not really too bad. The way that I do it, you probably saw my video about how I clone the sensor. So I need to get the ID number off of the old sensor so I can clone it with the new sensor. But if you threw it away, it's no big deal. That same scan tool can reteach your computer how to recognize the new sensor. So you will need a scan tool or a tire pressure monitoring system tool for reprogramming a new sensor. If he's a mechanic, he should know that you need the tool to program that sensor. Now, I'm hoping he put a new sensor in there and didn't just pull it and throw it away and stick a rubber valve in there, because you do need to have that sensor in there. But if he did put a sensor in there, then he's going to need to use a tool, the tire pressure monitoring system, to relearn the computer the number from the sensor that he replaced. But it's not really a big deal. It's just a matter of teaching your computer in your vehicle to recognize the ID number from the sensor that he put in. All right, let me know if he put a new sensor in or if he just threw it away and put a rubber valve in. If he threw a rubber valve in there, well, then you're going to need to take it apart and replace it with the correct one. Okay, this is one of my subscribers, Irvin Lay. It's a Ford rear wheel bearing replacement. On my 68 Ranchero, you remove 4 bolts and the axle slides out. I will tell you this, over the years, it has become much more difficult. He's right. When you changed with the older vehicles, when you had to change a wheel bearing on there, it was no big deal. Today, you've got a lot more work to get that bearing out of there. But back in those days, you basically took 4 bolts out of the axle itself. The axle would be on there and there would be holes in the axle, and you will go in there with an air gun, shoot those nuts out, and you could pull the axle out, and either you change the bearing that was in the axle tube, or it was part of the axle assembly itself, and you cut it off and you press the new bearing on there. Nowadays, a little bit different. Ford should have stayed with the 9-inch rear end, where the axles can slide out of the housing of the outside from the outside. You're right. That's the way that they actually did away with that a while back, where they actually did away with the ones with the holes in the outside where you unbolted and took the axle out, and then they went to the C-type rear where you actually had the axles that went into the differential. You had to take the cover off. You had to take out a long lock pin inside there and take out these big C clips to pull the axles out. And now they went to something totally different. That's a lot more difficult to do. Okay. I think we're going to call it a night here. Okay, we have just another thing I want to just take a look at here real quick. Barry Mills. This is one of my subscribers. He says, how to replace the rear brakes and calipers on a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Thank you for the great video. I'm already a fan. Question. Do you have to separately remove the caliper and then the bracket? Could you just remove the bracket knowing that the caliper comes off with it? You could do it that way. You could. What he's asking is when you're taking the brakes and when you're changing the rotor and the brakes, can you just take the mounting bracket off with the caliper? Could you do it like that? Yes, you can. It's a little more difficult putting it back together though, because the mounting bracket is inside you need to get the brake pads inside that mounting bracket. To me, it's a lot easier. Take that caliper off, pull the caliper out of the way, relocate it to the side, take that mounting bracket off, put your new rotor on, put your mounting bracket back on, install your new brake pads, and then you put your caliper back over the top. Could you take it apart like that? Yes, you could, but I think you're going to have a little more of a problem trying to put it back together with the mounting bracket and the caliper, and trying to get those brake pads into the mounting bracket itself. It's a little more difficult, and when you take it apart, you'll see just what I mean. Okay, we have another one. Another one is my subscribers here. We have 2 more, and then we're going to call it night. This subscriber, their name is actually CJCGTR4U. That's their YouTube name. And they say, a 2006 Nissan Sentra. Can you replace the light bulbs that display the front panel? The display that shows which way the air is blowing and no longer is lit. Okay, I know which one this one is. By panel, what they mean is this particular vehicle, 2006 Nissan Sentra, I remember it because it was actually to do with the climate control unit itself. It was a manual control. But yes, there is light bulbs inside that unit. If you take that unit out, don't even disconnect everything. Just pull the unit forward about maybe 2 inches, and in the back of it, you're going to notice, I think there's 4 light bulbs in that particular one. You'll need to take those light bulbs out. You're going to have to take that bulb to a parts store, and they'll give you a new bulb, and you can put the new bulbs back inside there. But I believe there is 4 light bulbs inside there, and it's common that what happens is half of the cluster may burn out where you can't see, and the other half is working properly. That's just the light bulbs that burn out. So to answer your question, yes, you can just change those light bulbs, pull the head unit forward, and you should have no problem getting inside there. Okay, and this one is somebody named Bradley Heyman, 2006 Honda Element. Thanks, Jim. AutoZone gave me the code 2647, and this video helped me clear it after I changed the oil and checked the screen. New solenoid did it. And what he's referring to in this one here is actually, I'm going to be putting a video up on this actually for another one I just did. 2647, I think it's low pressure. There's another code, I think it's a 2648, where it's high pressure, and how I replace the variable valve timing solenoid. So what he's saying is that by changing the variable valve solenoid and cleaning out the screen, it took care of his problem. It's a very, very common problem with Hondas. But what I will tell you, Bradley, is that change your oil more frequently, because most of the time these solenoids go bad because the oil is dirty and it doesn't circulate properly, and it winds up causing a problem in the solenoid and the screen and the oil circulation and all that kind of stuff. And the last one we're going to talk about tonight is, I like this name, Jimmy Dean. Drive belt and tensioner, 2003 Honda Accord. It says, hello, two things. When performing this job, do you have to disconnect the battery? If so, which terminal? Positive/negative, and a question mark. When you're changing the drive belt tensioner and the drive belt, no, you do not need to disconnect the battery, and there's really no reason to, because the power, you're working on the front of the alternator, which is over here. The power is all the way back over here, so one will have nothing to do with the other. You shouldn't have to disconnect that. I never do, so you shouldn't have to either. And it says, what side effects will happen to the car with a bad pulley/tensioner? Also, what happens if it breaks before fixing it? Well, what's going to happen is, when you have a bad tensioner or a bad pulley, it's going to make noise. And as you know, when something gets worse, the noise is going to get louder. Left unrepaired, it's going to wind up getting to the point where all of a sudden you're driving the vehicle, and before you know it, the belt is actually going to slip off, and you're going to wind up losing the belt, or you're going to wind up where you're going to chew up the belt and you're going to destroy it. I see my buddy Mike is in here. 2010 cross door has a tapping sound from the engine periodically. The engine oil and icons come on periodically. Also, the car seems to be in good running condition. I would be real careful with that. If your engine light comes on, the oil icon lights up, you got something going on. If there's a tap inside the engine, you could have something going on with the oil pump. I'm assuming that you change your oil frequently, because I do have a lot of people come into me and their oil is like mud inside there. Mud is just gonna destroy the valves and cause a whole bunch of different problems inside there. So you definitely want to make sure your oil is changed frequently. And if that oil light still comes on, you definitely want to have somebody take a look at it for you, because if it's tapping in the engine, that's usually something going on that's really pretty bad. All right, I think we're going to call it night. I think it's after 8 o'clock here already. It's 8:08, and I usually try to stick to just about an hour's time. So I think we are going to call it night. Next week, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to talk about. So sometimes when I'm walking my dogs, I'll think about it. You know what? I'll let you know during the week. I may not be here next week because I do have something I have to do, depending on how it goes. So we'll see how it goes. I will put up a description in there, whether we're going to do it or not, or whatever. But we'll see how it goes. So we'll play it by ear for next week. I may be able to get back in time, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So as always, I want to thank everybody for spending part of your Sunday evening here with me. I am going to sign off now. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to get a beer, and I'm going to go and relax a little bit and take it easy. All right. Well, I just want to tell everybody thanks again. Stay dry out there. I think it's going to be a rainy night tonight. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.